Hey, how's it going, everybody? Yet another day, another video, another political stance from your uncertified yet uncorrupt news reporter, independent, of course, Azure, and as always, Hassan, and subsequently Iran, the nation of Iran, have lost yet again. Their minds, their country. And now we have like nuclear material spilling into the nation of Iran because of trying to enrich it, and then the bombers took it out. Basically midnight last night, if we're going by the news reports. And this is it's fun times because on top of that, the icing on top of the Israeli cake, if you will, we have a response. The Jewish beast has awakened. The the Israeli lion has awoke from slumber. That's right. Ethan Klein has struck back, not at Hassan, but at his colleagues, his influencer uh, proxies, his friends, or so he says. I think it's more or less like they work for him rather than like they're his colleagues. And once they outlive their usefulness, it's like, yeah. Because Ethan Klein did some U-turn type tactics. Like he went from a lamb to a wolf almost instantaneously. Like it was almost poetic and mathematical how the precision, how he maneuvered himself into like this seat of like vulnerability to be taken advantage of, and then he's like, "Ha! I sprung it right back on him." And it's over something as like petty as like copyright infringement, but then like when you think about it, like it's actually a smart way of like getting back at them, for like what they did to him and like how they like tried to mess with his family and whatnot. And it's so hilarious because like I said, like Hassan has to either pay out of pocket and protect his friends, air quotes, or he doesn't and they're not his friends. And it just like makes him even look worse. So like you can literally see on his face like his expression of no, like I wouldn't even just call it defeat. I would call it like the burden of having to taste your own medicine, like using people outside influence to cancel other people, like having like the rules bent against you, like basically the ability to call up CPS or whatever it was, Child Protective Services, right? And fabricate that lie about his family is basically the same thing that Ethan Klein did. Only he did it in more the legal sense. So he's like, and more moralistically, he has the high ground because even if he didn't have this occur to him, like he was just doing this like out of spite for them or just like out of for funsies or whatever. Like yeah, he legally would be in the rights regardless. So it just goes without saying, like the precision of it was almost mathematical. Like it's just like it's actually kind of beautiful in a way where you think like, oh my god, this guy's so weak, this guy's so pathetic, man. He's not doing anything. He's like letting these guys take advantage of him and his family, and then out of nowhere he does this shit. It's like holy fuck, dude. And you gotta see the intro to this movie. Yo, shout out to Ethan Klein. I'm gonna hashtag him in this. Like I know he's a famous person, whatever, but like yo, he deserves the respect. He deserves the respect because of what he did. Because this is gonna be like the most entertaining shit ever, and like you're gonna be able to like rewatch it like endlessly because of like the meaning behind it, right? Whereas like internet beef in the past was like, it was semi tangible and stuff, but now it's like it's taken materialized as like, soap drama, if you know what I mean. Maybe I'm like, I'm too into it because I'm into this whole politics thing with like video games and this and that. And speaking of which, like I got like a bunch of fans for my PlayStation, so now I don't have to worry about it overheating. I can like get more gameplay footage and like yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. But also like World War III, or I guess if like it didn't just end like instantly. And of course Iran is like, showing off with like AI videos, like underground like, tunnels or whatever, with like trucks that have like missile launchers on them, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Like you could launch those missiles, but then what happens when you run out? Like you know what I mean? Like you don't have like a limitless supply of those things. Like you're obviously gonna run out, and then like as they get shot down and like people shoot those trucks down and like bomb your country, like what's the end goal? And like it goes back to this whole thing where people do things like packy scam, like will do things and not think of like the consequences long term, and they just do these things because they think like in the absence of people like directly like committing to like an actual war effort or any form of authoritative, I guess, discipline, if you will. Like yeah, it would be discipline because it's like there's people who just like constantly push the boundaries over and over again for the sake of like profit, and for the sake of like endangering people's lives. They can say religion all they want and cry that bullshit, but like why would they honestly do everything else on the side, right? Then yeah, it becomes more than obvious that they're doing this for the money. They're doing this for like other reasons to like move things and this and that. And like this is why these wars were never meant to succeed. Like they were meant to be perpetuated and like lied about, like committed to, because it's all the scam on the side. Like I would get, and I think it's like YouTube trying to punk me, or someone working at YouTube trying to punk me, but like a bunch of like commercials like, oh, you have to give to these children in Palestine, and I'm just like, wait, what the hell? like, like what, why would you like, assume that I want to like would want to donate? And it's like, obviously, I would just like block the commercial, and then I would get another one, and another one, and another one. It's like, it's obvious what this is all about. It was never really about fighting for a cause. It was more or less like, people wanting to make money off of like the suffering of other people, their fellow countrymen, and the naivety of people. Because when I guess you're poor and you're like you don't really have much to live for, like that's the alternative to you know I guess nothingness. And you're gonna see this a lot too with the destabilization of Iran, the country. Refugees welcome here, give to this charity. And I'm not trying to say like it's all 100% like, a fraud, but this is the beginnings of, terrorist attacks, of like all these all these things that we've become so accustomed to, but now is going to happen at such a large scale that people are going to be like eyes wide open to pretty much what was happening in Germany and parts of Europe, especially the UK. Like these places where these crimes and these people have like emigrated to have been forced, at least by their media, to keep their lips tightly shut. So, it's kind of ironic too, because the people who would like be very much for, immigration, no borders or whatever, are going to be the first people to feel the regret of those words. And like and I'm not trying to be pessimistic by saying, by by the time they feel that, it's going to be too late. But that's basically what that's going to amount to. They're going to come here, they're going to do their thing, and people are going to feel the impact. Going to feel it. I haven't felt it yet, and like I think as like a young man, like I just turned 40 uh, this Friday, so I feel as if like being more mobile would be a solution to that. So like if you're not ready to like buy a house, like renting is not such a bad idea. And then when you're ready to go, you can take what you have and hopefully find a better solution somewhere else. And like I know that sounds pessimistic, and like the only way to make it really work. And I sound like such a dickhead for saying this, but like I have to like come out and say this is like maybe have software because it's like okay, I can lie to you and like yeah, I'm 40, right? But like I haven't touched cryptocurrency. I don't know anything about that. And even though people will like, vouch for it and say like, yeah, I found like, a reasonable amount of success. I've also heard the opposite of that, where people have pretty much put everything into, something and God forbid, right? And like I'm saying this as reason to why I don't personally use it. So again, like for me, it would be like so I play video games and like you can design things in a program called Blender. And like I spoke about this before, but like as far as an avenue for money goes, like even if I just wanted to work as an independent, like I would be able to find some success. But seeing working as an independent, right? Like your work would ultimately not be yours if you know what I mean. Like you just have to sell it at like a marketplace, and then like you get a commission, right? And that's not bad. That's actually really good. If you can produce a reasonable amount of work, like volumetrically and like quality wise, then yeah, you can find reasonable success with that as an avenue. But if you want it all, right, like the whole pie, if you will, the whole video game pie, you got to keep it all to yourself. It's the greed, right? It's the unfortunate reality, and you don't actually want to tell anybody about that. So like if you're the very few people, the very very small fraction of people who watch my channel, congratulations, because now you know the truth about me. It's not, excuse me. It's not really that big of a deal, but like to people on the outside, like if they don't know this, especially going into it, like they are shooting themselves in the foot and like making it significantly harder for themselves. Like it's gonna be like one of those things where rather than you know have a good head start with it, like they're working against themselves because they're depleted, right? Like to me, think about like this, right? You have like a canvas, and on your palette, your paint palette, you only have so many, colors, right? And so much of those colors. So how you use them on that, portrait is, up to you. But again, like they're finite, right? Now I could be, for the sake of painters, like they probably have more than enough paint on their palette because they have to put it on, separately. So they'll take like the actual paint, dab it on their palette, and then like move on. So like individually speaking, like they can take as much as they want. But like in the case of like using metaphors, right? Like if you design things in Blender, right, and you keep selling them online, eventually you will refine your design process and make things at a much better like detail process efficiency. But like the originality, at least the way I see it, would wane. It would you would deplete yourself. And would you be able to consistently maintain your creative process? For me personally, no. And that's why I have to say, like I'm very seclusive, greedy with my personal work. So that's why I use like video games as an outlet to just like get it out there that are just like into this kinds of stuff, but also like very much alienated from just normal people. But like I find like not only is discussing video games and like the process behind the design process, it's not only soothing but also like for people who are interested in it, it's fun. It's a good time. Like you get to see me play this new game, Night Rain, and I got a controller for it, so I don't have to tap down the L3 and R3 buttons. I'll make a video about that. But I also wanted to make this video because I have this funny feeling, and I gotta bring him up. I thought I can just leave him alone, leave his name out of my mouth, but he cursed himself. You brought this on yourself, Sungrad. That's right. Your name, the the curse of Azure. And you see, you want to know why I think, you know, it was him and nobody else, even though it probably was. um, so recently, Monster Hunter Wilds on the cusps of getting. Oh, and I made a video saying how like poor Nintendo users can't get to play Monster Hunter Wilds, and like Chris being a Nintendo exclusive. Well, he was until he wasn't. Monster, making a return. All the Nintendo fans, coming back. Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be like a good time. It's like a crazy reunion. Next Friday, by the way, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be so good. Everybody's like, looking forward to it. Like, I honestly, here's the thing. Like, there's a huge difference and rift between me and normal fans of the franchise because maybe they have like a larger expectation. Like I was in my friend's. Well, I'm more of a fan of his. Well, I consider him my friend. Amatsu Ryu's stream today, and well, he was commenting on like and I was about to say the exact same thing, but I didn't type it out yet. How like as the franchise progress forward. So we went from Monster Hunter, you know, Generations Ultimate. So from 4 to Generations Ultimate, and then suddenly the jump to World. He noticed like a dip in quality, like the content was like lessened, right? And to me, I would think like he was talking about the monster counts and like the armor set of like variety, which ultimately meant like the amount of weapons as well, right? But I didn't even actually think about that, but he was right about that too. So when you amount it to that, right? So Monster Hunter World introduced two types of armor sets for the both the genders, right? So male and female both had like separate armor sets, and they couldn't interchange. So you're always gonna get like skirts and like stockings for females, and you're always gonna get like pants and like like boy shit for guys, right? And that was cool. No, like nobody complained about it until somebody did, and then and like all of a sudden after Rise and Sunbreak, like there was no more genders, and we went from two armor sets to one armor set, and we all thought, like I thought especially, okay, it's Nintendo, so more likely like they're trying to save on space, so they can't have too many armor sets even though like Amiibo was a thing and they had their own, exclusive Nintendo armor sets for some reason. Like they don't have on any other console. But like, besides the point, um, we were like, optimistic because like I started with World. I will be honest. I'm not like the biggest Monster Hunter fan, though I sunk thousands of hours, and I gotta check. Like I think I have something like 4,000 plus hours, 5,000 maybe. Insane like number of like time I played Monster Hunter World and Iceport collectively, and yeah, like People who are like fans of the older series will like attest the quality of content and the quantity, like the quantity being the very important aspect. Like even when we're speaking about like the first game, and then like the second that never actually came out in the United States, and I maybe Europe too. I'm not too sure. Excuse me. Um, yeah, like the franchise, the series, like to me, the omission of having no uh, underwater is just so bad, you know. Well, I know I've been like ranting for like such a long time, but all these like crazy things happen, and you gotta like recap them or have like a relapse and play more video games. Well, anyways, I'll be making more videos, and thanks for watching this one, and have a nice day. Beware of World War III.